All right, guys. So let's do this. So, most of you listening right now are more than likely my friends or family. If you're not, my name is Devin. So basically, more likely, most of you are wondering why I'm doing this, and it's actually a good question. I'm still not quite sure why, but I think it's gonna be fun. I really just I like to talk, and I think I like to hear myself talk. So obviously, but a lot of the conversations I have with my friends, it's end up being pretty important, and I like to have specific conversations with people who have credibility in that on that topic. So I just kind of thought they were worth sharing, and also I think I have like a general good like 2 cents to share with people. If you disagree, that's totally fine. I'm fine with that. I really don't care. If you don't want to listen, if you think it's stupid, do your thing. I'm just doing this for fun, and we'll see where it goes. So yeah. But basically, how this is gonna work, and forgive me if there's any technical difficulties or anything. I'm still trying to figure everything out. I will have like an Instagram page and an email set up. So if you have any like suggestions or complaints, or you rather hear this, you have ideas, just send me whatever. I'm totally open. That's totally fine with me. So, um, let's get into the first segment we're gonna do, and this is gonna be constant throughout, and it's gonna be called "You Think." And what this is going to be is I'm going to try to focus on something like present that's going on right now. For instance, today, what we're going to focus on indirectly is the issue in the NFL right now. But I don't want to talk about like the specific issue. It's sensitive. I want people to get uncomfortable, but it's still like I don't want this to be me spewing my opinion, saying I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. I want just people to be more open minded, maybe, and like, excuse me, more understanding. So today, like I said, we're going to do the NFL issue, but not directly. I will say, though, something I have a problem with is I get on Facebook after these things happen, and it's insane. These adults, like people who are peer, like who should be role models, and people actually look up to these guys, and they're on Facebook just like, I don't know, because to me, like, you get on Instagram and stuff, and like more so than usual, it's just, what am I doing today, what's going on in my life, this and that. Well, you get on Facebook and these adults are just writing short novels on like their opinions, and like, I don't know. It's just weird to me. Like, I get them like, oh, here we go. Like, I just don't quite understand it. It's like, why do you think your opinion matters? And like, not so much that, because like I respect these people, but it just starts controversy. And I get it. Like, it's your social media platform and you want it to be a big thing, but I don't know. It is bothersome to me that like as soon as something happens, adults get on Facebook and they're like, yeah, like, this and that. I don't know. It just really bothers me. Anyways, so what I want to talk about is the idea of like patriotism, because I'm gonna go ahead and assume that most people listening are living, and if not living, are from America. So they're gonna have a good idea, because we Americans are known for our patriotism and all that. And I want to talk about the idea of it. And I think the problem right now is that people don't really understand that, like, I think like it's awesome that people are patriotic, and they're passionate about our country. You should be. We're born here, we're raised here. All of our ties, culturally, emotionally, everything is to this country. That's totally understandable. But I think what people don't understand is that America means something different to different individuals, to different groups. Um, and I think that's like kind of what we're missing here today is well, the way I want to explain this is through an example actually one of my professors gave me. and she's a great woman. She was talking to us about, we were having a class discussion about like some cultural studies, and she just like said, you know, and I understand this because I grew up in the southern East Coast, so I see a lot of stuff that maybe someone wouldn't see in like a metropolis kind of area, but you know, maybe they have. But anyways, she told us this story, or like, yeah, a story, and she basically said when she was a kid, she loved having her hands in her pockets. Well, she still does, and like I even watched her the following classes to make sure she didn't just make this up, and she does. She just stands up there teaching with her hands in her pockets, and she basically said like when she was a kid she loved it. You know, it's a comfort zone for her, and she's an African American woman, and she put her hands in her pockets, you know, doing her thing, whatever, put it in her jeans, put it in her jacket, whatever. And her mom would always scold her for that. And you know, when she was more young, she didn't really understand, but then when she was older, her mom kind of explained, and this is like, I want to say she grew up like late 80s, 90s in Los Angeles when it was like pretty rough, but still, regardless, it's still a present thing. But basically, her mom explained to her, you know, don't put your hands in your pockets when you're going into a store, because people are gonna think you're trying to steal, or you know, just like gonna look at you and like follow you around and stuff because they'll think you're stealing. Which, like, I've heard some shit, and like I've seen some shit, but like it's just small things like that you don't think of. And I'm also saying this assuming that most people are listening are white people, because that's, you know, most people who like would actually be like, oh, Devin's making a podcast, like let me give a shit about this, probably white. And I'm saying this assuming that most people listening are white. But I personally, I was like, what the fuck, like that's insane. I've never thought of that. Like I've never put my hands in my pockets in the store and been like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't. And it's like, of course, with these things, there's always variables and exceptions. You know, if you're listening, you're thinking like, oh, well, like, you know, every time I go in the store, someone looks at me or whatever, that's fine. But I'm saying, like, for the majority of white people, I really, really doubt I can say 100% that most white people don't walk into a store and like think maybe I shouldn't put my hands in my pockets because they'll think I'm stealing. You know, that's insane. That's absurd. And that brings me to the point, like, America means something different for a lot of different people. So when people are doing things and like standing up to things and you say, how dare they, like, you know, this is America, hell, unpatriotic and stuff, it's like, you got to think. America means something different to a lot of people. And, you know, personally for me, like, I've never felt that way. And it blew my mind. Which I also was like kind of disappointed in myself because I try to like be more understanding and stuff. But I was like, fuck, I've never ever thought of that. But, you know, like I can think like, well, the only time I've ever felt that way is when I was actually stealing, you know, like I used, like in middle school, I'd like go into, or elementary school, whatever, I don't know, a long time ago, I would go into like Walmart and I'd like open the package of tech decks and I grab the tech decks and I'd be like looking around and stuff. And I remember the feeling of always thinking like people were looking at me like I was stealing. But that's because I was actually stealing. That guilt of stealing made me have a guilty conscience. And that's the thing. That's the only time when I was actually stealing. But normal, everyday people, and just because of the color of their skin, they walk into a store and someone's looking at them like they're stealing. And that's just insane. That's the America given to these people from birth. Because of their skin. They're born into this world and that's all they get. And that's just, you should just think, you know, well, maybe America means something different to someone else. They've had different experiences in our country and stuff. And if you're listening from a different place other than America and you're new to America or whatever, I don't want you to have a terrible idea of America. but there are a lot of issues that need to be fixed. I mean, just like every other country, though. Every country has its problems, right? So, anyways, that's kind of what I want you to think about. And I'm gonna go ahead. The next part of this, I'm gonna call my buddy Jason. Jason is a very good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. And what I want to talk about is being abroad, like intercultural studies, I guess you could say, but more so just the idea of being abroad. I personally have never left America. I would love to. I kind of don't plan on being anywhere else, but um I really want to. And I think it's good to like talk to someone about who really has the credibility and who understands, cuz not some people haven't let some people listening are like, yeah, like I've totally been everywhere and like you're a moron. Like who cares? Like it's just a thing, you travel whatever. But I think it's important. Like some people haven't left and some people should know. So now we're gonna have my friend Jason, and I prompted him a few questions. That's the way this is gonna work. I'm gonna have someone call in, and I prompted him a few questions, and we're just gonna talk about it. Um, yeah. So, Jason, you there?
Hey,
Okay, cool. So how's it going?
pretty good, pretty good.
Awesome. All right. So I'm pretty sure. I think I wrote down the right questions. So we're just gonna get into it. So the first question I asked you is what's it like being there? He's in Jordan. So I said, what's it like being there considering the places you've been? Because well, I guess you go ahead and just talk about like where you've been first, like, a little bit of your past so people
Uh,
understand.
yeah, so I lived in Croatia first. That was my first overseas place, and Ethiopia was my second, and then here in Jordan is my third and last.
Right. So what is it like you going to Jordan? Like what is that like like you have the cultural experience of being somewhere else. Like you're not just like fresh out of America like whoa. So like well, how do you think like that made your first impressions a little different? Like did you have expectations and stuff or like kind of a background knowledge already?
But yeah, so like I mean, my understanding of like how to carry myself and act in a foreign country to be respectful towards other cultures is definitely already like experienced. I knew like not to go around looking clueless. That would just make yourself a target, and to notice that like people, of course, will take advantage of foreigners because they just don't know. And yeah, I mean, I definitely have a better understanding than most people would, judging the places I've been before.
Right. Right. So you said like people take advantage and stuff. Can you like explain that a little bit? Like what like cuz you're I mean
So,
like maybe just describe also like how that's different maybe from somewhere else like.
so like just small things like there's always the taxi drivers that'll try to hit you with the giant price because they know you're American, and the fact that you're over here in this country probably implies to them that you're rich, richer than most. And
Right.
just things like that. Like there'll be the restaurant waiters might try to hit you with that because the prices may be listed in Arabic, and you obviously don't speak Arabic. So you just have to be vigilant and watch out for just small things like that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess to go to my next question, was there any culture shock for you? Like anything you did like since you were experienced, like was there anything you actually were like surprised by or any shock at all?
Um, I mean, it's this is my first time in the Middle East, and so it's different for sure. But I wouldn't say that I was culture shocked like most people would going somewhere for their first time. It's
Right.
like the biggest difference is really just the language barrier. And I, to be honest, of all places I've lived here, people have spoken the least English, and that's what's made it most difficult.
Right. Well, that's big. I can't imagine like. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Jason. Like, he's a good, very good friend of mine. We keep in touch, and I talk to him a lot. So not all of this is new to me, but it is still pretty interesting to like hear it. And but yeah. So I guess let's talk about a little bit like what you've been doing. Like as far as like, I mean, exploring and stuff. Like, kind of what have you seen? Like, just stuff about Jordan in case anyone's like interested. Like, if they want to go to Jordan or they're not quite sure anything about Jordan.
So Jordan is definitely like rich with history and mostly religious history. Like it's the desert that Jesus walked through from Nazareth to Jerusalem. I got to see where Jesus was baptized. That was cool. Um, there's also like there's a memorial of Moses, and I'm not sure if they know where, but Moses was buried somewhere on a mountain here. I'm not sure if I'll be able to see that. The the uh, the memorial of Moses was pretty cool because like it's just the church that he stayed, and like he invited refugees of any race or ethnicity to come there as a refuge, as a religious sacred ground, and that was cool to see. They're very into like mosaics,
Right.
so the artwork it was a lot of it was damaged, but then the things that you could still see, it was interesting seeing artwork from however long ago, 2,000, 3,000 years ago.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, yeah, and then you just posted a picture the other day, and we talked about this a little bit, but you went to the Dead Sea.
Yeah, the Dead Sea, it's really interesting. It's like it's I mean, it doesn't have much like historical like I don't know what's the word. It's just not. It doesn't have very much like historical things about it. But I mean, it's the Dead Sea, and the fact that it's so salty that you can float. It's an experience you definitely cannot get anywhere else. Like floating in the Dead Sea is like walking on the moon. It's so weird.
That's awesome. That's like, yeah, that's really cool. Um, okay, yeah, that's awesome. So, if you guys want to go to Jordan, like, that's kind of what you should expect, and that's awesome. There's a lot of rich culture there and stuff. Okay, well, let's go to the next question then. I asked you how you think as of right now, like how the experience would change, like your perspective or whatever, like once you get back to the US, like how will you be different or how will your look on things be different because of this specific experience?
Well, I would say it's just my understanding of the world and people, and that there are different places out there that are literally just whole different worlds. And having that understanding can be helpful anywhere in life, really. Like I not only learn how to communicate to people that don't even speak my language, but to understand and know their way of life and like traditions that like nobody would ever think about, like the way they'll talk to you and invite you into their home for tea, and it's like a whole nother aspect of social skills that I'll have that other people won't.
Right. So do you think like it kind of like in a way molds you, like you may like kind of show those characteristics a little more when you go back to the US, or is it just more so you have an understanding and like when someone else does it you won't just be like, "Whoa, like what's going on? I've never seen this before."
Oh no, it'll definitely mold the way I am in so many different ways. Just I mean, for the biggest way I can actually talk about is just my understanding of people and how I can just communication skills is a big one, of course. Like I could definitely sit there and talk to anybody, and it's not just from knowing how to communicate. It's from being in different places and talking to different people. That's how you learn.
Right. Yeah, I know
But
that's
yeah,
that's awesome. I was talking to this guy in one of my classes yesterday, and everybody says this, but I was like, yeah, I want to study French a little bit and maybe go to Morocco and stuff. And he's from France, and he's like, oh yeah, best way to learn is to go to the place. Like you can take the classes all you want, but you got to go there if you really want to learn. And
yeah,
so,
and it's just like the fine line between education and experience. I mean,
right,
of course, experience is going to get you way further.
right, right, Awesome. Okay, cool, man. So that's pretty much the end of the prompted questions I gave Jason. So now what we're gonna do, Jason does not know about this. Well, I warned him, but he doesn't know like what we're about to do, and we're gonna do something called "What in the World." And basically, what I want to do, just for a little fun or whatever, but I want to go and find do a little research, and I found a news article from something happening in the world. Just something random though. I don't want to do anything like big, like anything ridiculous. I don't want to focus on politics or Trump, North Korea, none of that stuff. So this article I found, dude, it's about coffee and chocolate. So just to give you a little summary, it's talking about like how kind of with
Yeah, you cut out on me.
so basically it's talking about how our cultivation is changing, and how actually some food supplies are possibly going extinct in the near future. And just to like give you a little bit of better idea, the first couple sentences of this article says extinctions could threaten the world's food supplies as key species of plants and animals come under threat from climate change, disease, and pests, scientists have warned. Three-quarters of humankind's food today comes from just 12 crops and 5 animal species, and this lack of agrobiodiversity leaves our food chain vulnerable to a repeat of events like the Irish potato famine, in which a million people starved to death. And that's just insane. It's specifically talking about coffee and chocolate too, how like possibly in the near future, like I don't know how near, it doesn't get into very specific details, but it's talking about how coffee and like chocolate are like we're using the shit out of it basically. And with everything, with us using so much surplus, and it's like, weaknesses and growing right now, it's like it might be gone in the near future. I mean, that's just insane. I've heard this about chocolate before. But yeah, I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I actually have some experience in this because Ethiopia is, I don't know if it's number one, but they export a lot of coffee. They pretty much founded coffee or something like that. But actually, in sixth grade when I lived there, we took a field trip to a coffee farm, and they were actually talking about this subject itself and how like they of all people actually get to, this is like their living, how they're earning their living and supporting their families, and like this was already, what is that, like 7 years ago, sixth grade. So like they were talking back then about how the prices of coffee being exported from them is going, they have to increase the price to lower the demand because it is going out, is becoming extinct. The resources are becoming more scarce on it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I didn't really see firsthand how it's going extinct or going away, but they talked about it. So
Yeah, that's so awesome that like you like you were there in Ethiopia, and like you are already, and that was so long ago, dude. Like I didn't even know Jason back then. That's crazy. And
yeah,
that's like wait, and we've been friends for a long time, and before even then he like knew about this. So it's been a problem for a while. And like I have seen stuff on like chocolate and stuff. People are like freaking out. And that is pretty crazy. Like to think like a world without chocolate and coffee. I mean, that's that's big. Um, yeah, that's
yeah.
insane.
And back then, I feel like I don't think it was as much of a problem as it was them noticing that their resources are being depleted, so they were starting to take action against it.
Right. And like, like you said, they're a huge importer of coffee, like, or exporter, like that they probably make so much money in revenue off of that if it's like a big thing for them. Like I think I've seen like Ethiopian brew and stuff everywhere, and that's
Yeah,
big for
you
them.
see it in Starbucks. You definitely, some Starbucks have like posters of Ethiopian coffee farmers and just, yeah, all that, all the bags. A lot of the coffee bags at Starbucks will literally say it from Ethiopia. Like,
Yeah. That's crazy. I couldn't imagine, man. I can't I can't do anything without my coffee, and just chocolate's chocolate. If you don't like chocolate, I don't know what you're doing. That's just crazy. Yeah. Yeah, and it's talking about Vietnam too. I know Vietnam's another big one with coffee. So yeah, that's crazy. Okay, yeah, cool, man. I guess that's everything like we can cover. But yeah, dude, you've been the first caller on my podcast. Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Yeah,
You had
yeah,
a
it's an honor.
maybe we'll look back on this one day. But yeah, no, you had a lot to add. That actually went really well. Thanks so much for being on, man.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, well, I'll talk to you soon, dude.
All right, see you.
Bye. Okay, guys. So hopefully that went well as far as audio goes. The problem kind of also that goes along with that, him being in Jordan, is he's on WhatsApp. I can't call him directly, so it's through internet. So it's a little different. It's a little more buggy. It cuts out a lot. We FaceTime a lot, and it's like blurry most of the time, and it cuts in and out. So it's a little harder. It's harder to deal with, and yeah. So hopefully that recorded okay. I'll do what I can, and like I said, I'm still kind of figuring all this out. I have a good amount of experience in recording and editing and all that and using software, but just general, like, I'm in my room, so it's kind of different. But anyways, so I'm gonna look at that, and hopefully that went okay. But we're getting close to the end now. That was cool. And what I'll do with everybody. So typically I want to have a call in every single time. If there's any technical difficulties or something along the lines of that, obviously it'll be a little different, and I'll have to be creative. But right now what I'm trying to do, I don't really have a script or anything. I'm trying to just kind of, I have some ideas written down or whatever, but trying to kind of just go with the flow. But what I want to do now, and this isn't me like saying like, hey, like, you got to do this, you got to listen, you got to watch this, whatever. I just think like sometimes people are looking for recommendations and stuff. And if you have any other ideas for this, or you want to hear something specific, or like you have questions, like I said, man, I'm going to have an Instagram page for this. My email will be on there. Like, just let me know. Go ahead, feel free. If you want to be like, dude, your podcast sucks, like, totally, please do it. Please do it. I will learn from it. I will adjust. I will change things. And if you're still like, this podcast sucks, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear your friends, like, whatever. That's fine. Like I said, I'm just doing this for fun. So hate me, love me, do your thing. But so what I'm going to do today, just because it's simple and easy for me, I read a lot. I think it's important. I know a lot of people don't read today. Most people I know who do read, it's just for school, which is cool too. At least you're doing something. But I think reading is important. And before I get into this, before I get into what I'm reading, I do want to say that, like, I think people misunderstand reading. Like, I want to say, first of all, just because you read a lot does not make you smart. The ability to read does not reflect intelligence. So if you see someone reading, don't be like, wow, they're smart. No way, dude. Don't ever do that. Like, I know some stupid people who read too. Like, it's definitely a thing. Reading does not make you intelligent. And also, depending obviously on what you're reading, that's the biggest point. Like, you can read whatever the hell you want. Doesn't even mean you understand it, because critical thinking and all those things are learned, and some people never learn that, and they just like to read. But that also goes to my next point. Reading is entertainment. So if you've picked up a couple books and you're just like, this is stupid, I can't finish this, like 2 pages later you're like, I have a headache, maybe you should go ahead and like try to kind of find what you like to read, because it's just like movies. There's different genres. Some people like horror, some people like drama, some people like fiction and science fiction and fantasy, all that kind of stuff. So there's different genres and stuff. Different people read specific genres. Some people read a ton of shit. Personally, for me, I didn't like reading. Well, I've always liked reading, but I didn't like like I wasn't an avid reader until more so recently when I moved here to Los Angeles, like, well, more than a year ago now. And like I just didn't have too much to do with my time besides work, and I picked up Desolation Angels by Jack Kerouac. My dad's a huge fan of Jack Kerouac, and he was like, "Hey, you need to read this. This is good. Like if you're just reading and you have nothing to do, go ahead and read this." And I wasn't a big reader, but I was like, "Well, I have nothing else to do with my time, so I might as well." And man, I was lost in that book in a good way. Like it was so good. And I was like, "Wow, this guy, like I just love the way he writes." Um but I won't get into that too much because I'll definitely talk a little more about Jack Kerouac, like specifically one time in the future. But the book I'm reading now is actually off of a suggestion from Jack Kerouac. I just finished I read most of his work, and this was suggested to me because apparently the rest of the stuff I haven't read wasn't very good. But this book is called "Even Cowgirls Get the Blues," and it's by Tom Robbins. And it's good. It's good. I'm not super far into it. I've been a little more busy with school than I'd like to be, but it's really interesting. The thing about Jack Kerouac is it's all about him writing while he travels, and his like enlightening experiences and the people he meets and the stuff he does. And this is kind of similar. I'm not even quite sure I should have done this before. I haven't even done any research or anything on it, but I'm not quite sure if it's a true story because it's actually a narration of someone else's story. And it's this girl Sissy, and basically it's pretty comedic. She has really big thumbs. And people are like in awe at it. Her parents like took her to a gypsy when she was young to like, they're taking her to a bunch of doctors and everybody's just like, what? Like, I don't understand how your thumbs are so big. And basically she just gets it good at hitchhiking. And I think that's kind of why I was suggested to this. It gets in this thing of her traveling. But I wanted to read a little bit from it because I was reading this book and I've been like flaunting this cover around. I was like, oh, this was suggested by Jack Kerouac. Like, I want everybody to know I'm reading this, blah, blah, blah. If someone's read this before, I hope they like talk to me about it because I actually don't know much about it. But pretty early on in the book, like, I'm not like, what is the word? I'm pretty desensitized, but like, I probably just butchered that terribly. But I don't know. I was just caught off guard. Like this was like a little like I don't know. Just let me read it. So it's just talking about the main character Sissy. This is talking about her like habits and stuff with hitchhiking. So Sissy neither solicited nor discouraged, but accepted the attentions of random drivers with calm satisfaction and insisted they keep driving. She would eat the cheeseburgers and Dairy Queen sundaes they bought for her while they fished in her panties for whatever it is men fish for in their primitive space. Personally, she preferred gentle rhythmic trollings and automatic transitions. No girl likes to be molested by a party who is always having to shift gears. Being molested was, in a sense, a fringe benefit of her craft, a secondary pleasure pulled like a trailer behind the supreme joy of the hitchhike. In honesty, though, she had to admit it was also an avocational hazard. Since the brain has such a high susceptibility to inflammation, there was occasional hotheads who would not or could not abide by her rule. In time, she learned to recognize them by subtle symptoms: tight lips, shifty eyes, and a pallor that comes from sitting around in stuffy rooms reading Playboy magazine and the Bible, and refused their rides. And that's all I'm going to read. Maybe that was like a lot. I'm not sure. I'll listen to it and decide. But I was like, I read that and I was like, what the hell? Like, I get it because I was like, wow. I mean, this takes place in like, I think like late 50s, maybe like mid 60s, somewhere around there. And I'm like, hitchhiking was still a big thing back then. But like, I think misogyny was like much more like heavily present. So like a girl hitchhiking, that's kind of insane by herself all the time. So I was wondering the whole time reading this, I'm like, is she gonna like talk about bad experience or something? And it's like, her talking about like this is just normal, like it's just a thing. And I was just like, holy shit, like that's insane to even think of. Anyways, So, but like, in what way is that not entertaining? You know, like, why not read a book? But so this book is actually pretty like heavy. It's good. It's really good. I like the writing style. It's really dope. But it's cool because it's a narration of this girl's story. So it takes into account like it kind of like interviews people, like what people had to say about her, because she like lived in Richmond when she was younger, which is really cool because I'm from that area, Richmond, Virginia, and Richmond's such a cool place. And it actually talks about Richmond in it as it was in the past, which is insane. Like it describes it as a conservative war museum, which today like very quite the opposite, which we'll actually get into because next week we're going to well, I won't talk about what the you think is gonna be, but we are gonna have my good friend Anne Marie call in, and she is from Richmond, or not from there, but she lives there now. And she's gonna be the call in next week, and we're gonna talk about, if you don't know, right now there's a lot of protests and a lot of things going on with the monuments there, the monuments from the Civil War and whatnot. And so that's what we're going to talk about for the call-in next week, because Amory's credible in this, because she's intelligent, she's done her research and everything. She goes to the protest. She's seen some shit at the protest. Amory's awesome. She's helped me a lot with like art and stuff. She's very artistic, and she helped me with a paper in communications because she's seen this shit firsthand, and like she's just been an awesome help. So I really wanted to get her on the podcast. But yeah, so I guess I'm just gonna wrap up now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much, Jason. Awesome input. If you guys want to travel, Jordan sounds dope. I really want to go there. He's really having a good time, and he's like, when are you gonna come? When are you gonna come? And like, I really want to go. It sounds awesome. I think it's cool, like all the religious stuff there, all the religious history there. That's definitely cool stuff to see. So yeah, but thanks so much, guys. And I want to release one a week, so I'll more than likely record sometime next week, whenever is good for Amory. And yeah, but okay. Hope you guys have a good good day. Wow, already fucking up. And thanks for listening. Like I said, email me or anything if you have suggestions. If you're like, hey, back away from that mic, or hey, like I can't hear shit, let me know. For real, let me know. I got to take into account everybody's variables and everybody's situation, so it's for the audience. So thanks so much, guys, for listening. I'll catch you next week.